Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Cole, and welcome back to the Culmination Project. This will be a solo episode today, and I want to talk a little bit about an experience I've been having the last several days, which is the illusion of losing connection to Source, to my higher self. I know that I don't actually ever lose connection, but there can be the idea or the thought or the belief that I've lost connection. And a lot of times I feel like this is a test of sorts to see how earnest I am and how sincere I am in my own understanding, in my own practice, in my own desire to stay connected consciously. And on Wednesday, I got pretty sick physically and just had a really terrible stomach ache, started getting the cold chills, just not feeling myself physically. I'm normally pretty on the go, pretty high energy, in consistent movement. But I also think that this was not only a sign to see if I could stay conscious during this period of time, and hold the faith and knowing that I am connected and I am always held and safe, and that there's actually no problem, that my mind just makes up problems when I'm in these lower states energetically, physically. But part of the message that came up to me was I had been going too hard. I had been rushing a little bit too much and maybe not treating my body with the proper care and respect that I needed to treat it with. Not that I was treating it terribly or anything, but I wasn't getting as much rest as I probably should have. I was running on multiple days of like 4 to 5.5, 6 hour nights of sleep. Um, wasn't prioritizing fully my nutrition. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. And also, I was getting a lot of energetic work done and really just going hard in the gym and going hard at work and just looking at a computer screen constantly. And it was just sort of wearing me down. And then I hit a point on Wednesday this last week where it just sort of all, the house of cards sort of came down. And so the last 3 or 4 days, I've just been really resting a lot and taking a lot of time to sleep and to just chill and relax, and then finding my conscious connection with that flow, with that ease, with just being, with feeling into the space that I'm in and feeling into my own body, and really getting out of my head as much as possible. Because as I mentioned before, it's so easy when we're in these lower states of consciousness, because we're in pain or because we are ill, or we're just not, maybe not feeling it that day. Maybe we're just having an off day physically, or a lot has come up emotionally, or maybe with some of the relationships or people in our lives, has caused some tumult or some turmoil to pop up inside. And just to know that during those times, there's going to be periods where our mind wants to come in and take hold. That old way of being wants to come in and take hold, and some old patterns may come up, and the desire to go back to old ways to kind of distract ourselves and pleasure seek and go into essentially the world of form to find our solace, or to find our sense of ground in things that maybe used to work for us, but do not anymore. And sometimes it's going to be that, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and we'll have this momentum going. We'll be feeling so good, because I know for me, I was feeling so good, like the last like 2.5, 3 weeks leading up to this illness. And even though I wasn't getting proper rest and I was moving a little too fast, I could tell, I knew it, I was aware of it, but there was a lot of momentum going. So I was just kind of riding that wave. And when that happens, when we have these little quote unquote backslides, it can be easy for us to go into our minds and be like, well, I must have been doing the wrong thing, or, I'm no good at this, or, I'm never going to come out of this again, or whatever story our minds want to tell us, to get us to believe in it, to get us to be hooked again, to get us to have that sense of separation and, oh, poor me, and selfishness, and I'm just going to curl up in a ball and do nothing, and my life is terrible, and just all the negative thoughts that can tend to come up when we are in these kind of lower energy states. The kind of pity party, doom and gloom ideas that come to us when we aren't feeling optimal physically or emotionally or mentally, right? There are these little hooks, and it tends to drag us in and pull us into its own little world and its own little game. And again, this is not to say that our minds are wrong or that they're bad, or they just are a tool. Is what they're meant to be, a tool. They're not meant to run the show. Our minds are a computer. It's a useful tool for directing focus and creating things and building things and using our intuitive sense of self to infuse thought towards things that we want to be creative with, or relationships we want to build, or a conversation we want to have, or something maybe mechanical like driving a car, or writing, journaling. It has to be infused with that inner sense of being, that inner sense of self, that inner sense of intuitive knowing or divine spark, whatever you want to call it. Because if it's not, that's when things can spiral. And that's when we get stuck in ideologies or past beliefs, or wanting to be somewhere that we're not, or, up in our heads about what somebody might think of us, or, applying a past situation or a past belief pattern to where we're at right now. And if we can just drop for a moment all that thought and really come into the present, whether that's through breath or through writing or through just feeling into the body, or through, sometimes for me, it's music, like playing guitar and singing, that can get us out of the mind and really break the spell of the mind. Because what it does is it has us under an illusion temporarily, an illusion that things won't get better, an illusion that we're unworthy, an illusion that, or maybe sometimes it's more positive, that we're like better than this person, or we're the best, or I have to compete, or I blah, 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 right? And in the relative world, of course, there are competitive components to the way things work, especially in business or in any kind of game or sport, but they don't have to be win at all costs, right? It can be, I'm going to compete against myself to see how much better I can get, and I'm going to enjoy the journey of getting better and improving and moving in the direction that inner knowing wants me to move, right? And so if we just come back to this, and this is what I always come back to within myself, is just coming back to this moment, breathing, feeling, coming back to what is concrete, what is here, what I can actually perceive, what I can see clearly when I step outside of the mental structures that are always living in the future or the past. When you breathe consciously, you can literally feel yourself settle in to where you're at, into the body, into presence, into seeing those thought patterns, into seeing the way that they want to hook your awareness and pull you into that illusory daydream, right? And when that's all dropped, I know it's easier said than done. It's not always easy to drop it, right? But as soon as you see it, you can view it clearly and say, oh, there you are. And then you have some space around it. That's how it's dropped. It's just the realization, the awareness of it, and the allowing of it is the other big piece. The allowing of it to move through without being hooked by it. So the mere seeing of it and just being with the seeing, that rhymed. The being with the seeing allows it to move and allows us to separate that piece of ourselves, not even piece, the fundamental part of ourselves that is just able to hold it, because it's all encompassing. That part of ourselves is literally what's here, allowing everything physically, mentally, emotionally to arise. And I know that may sound confusing to some, but there is that part of us that is ever present. It's the part of you that was you when you were 5 years old. Part of you that was you yesterday, the part of you that will be you tomorrow, that doesn't change. Even though your whole life on the physical plane as a human being, your body ages, your mental structures change, your emotions change. There's so much change constantly going on. But what's it going on inside of? What's that isness? What's that essence that you know yourself to be that doesn't change? What is that part? Right? I think if you feel into that, if you think of a memory from 5 years ago, a week ago, when you're a child, there's that part when you think of that memory that was viewing that situation at the time, that was the same as the person viewing this video right now. So it's that paradox. Everything changes, and then there's that something that's fundamental that doesn't change, that stays, that allows, that everything moves through. So just remember, if you're in a down state, if you feel you've backslid, it's okay. You can come back to this moment. You can come back to the present, because it's really, you're always in it. The only thing that takes you out of it is the thought that you're not in it. Is the idea that you should be something else, or should be somewhere else, or you didn't do enough, or you must have lost it, or you're separate, or you're no good, or you're whatever the narrative is. It's all a narrative to separate us and to hook us into something that's not real, something that only exists in the mind. So just come back to the breath, come back to feeling into the body, come back to here, whatever you can get concrete, whatever you can feel fully aware of in this moment right now with whatever's coming up, whether that, even if that's observing the insanity going on in your mind. Sometimes that's what we have at our disposal. So wanted to bring that to you today. Hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and make sure to remember to enjoy yourselves. See y'all later.